now that we've got the raised beds built, we're gonna have to do a couple other things. One of the things I did last night to help kind of speed this process up was I applied Great Stuff to some of the outside facing walls of the raised beds. We have there, I came along the bottom here, and also here. I may not keep this here, but what we need to do now, since this is all nice and cured, is I need to carve this out. My plan is to lay this hygrolon on there, which is another water wicking material to allow smaller epiphytes and mosses to grow on the front of this wood. So for down here, what I'll end up doing is hitting it with just hygrolon and then attaching it with Gorilla Glue. I'll probably do the front here in Great Stuff and maybe this side as well. So I'm not going with any sort of structural look to the Great Stuff. So because I'm applying the hygrolon over the Great Stuff, I don't have to be really, meticulous when it comes to carving. All I want to do is get a somewhat nice, flat, smooth surface that'll allow the Gorilla Glue to bond well with the hygrolon. I do want to keep both sides of the tank hilled up like this. This will create almost like a sediment effect to where soil over time is built up, and then there's moss that has grown on top of that. Trusty steak knife, carving knife, whatever you want to call it. Well, apparently the battery died at some point. I mean, all you were really looking at was fast forward to me carving. All you really need is just pretty much a flat surface. It'll help bond. I just gotta do a little bit of touching up here. Carve a little bit of that right there. But other than that, it's ready for some Gorilla Glue and hygrolon. So there's many ways to cut hygrolon. It doesn't cut very well with typical scissors. It is a very tough material. I've got an old pair of bonsai shears, and I'm also going to use a razor blade. So the first thing you want to do, at least for me, is glove up. We are working on a vertical surface, so we're probably going to have to help coax some of that glue into place. Nice, never fails. Pinky out. Fingerless latex gloves. Who'd ever thought that was an invention? Alright, well, at least I got one full good glove. So it's suggested to lightly damp the surface with the humidity in here. This Great Stuff is already pretty damp, so I'd say we're pretty safe to lay it. I'm going to start up top first. Because I want some of this to start in the bed, which will help wick some of the moisture from the bed down onto the wall. I'm gonna pick a square corner here to start. Well, I've got one side on. I've got to go do the other side there, and then some touch-up places as well. All right, Terra Tribe, we got the background, we got the hygrolon on for here, comes across and down on the front of this side as well. I'm gonna wait for this to dry. It should dry here pretty quickly. I mean, it's already getting pretty hard, but once it dries, we're gonna go through and touch it up and then get some soilless mix in these beds. So So it's been a few hours since we applied the Hygrolon, and the Gorilla Glue is nice and dry. You have all these white spots. Here's a yellow spot from where the glue swelled and dried up. Now it doesn't look the best, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover up those spots with some Dry Lock. This is Dry Lock Original. Use this for painting great stuff in vivariums and terrariums. And it's gray, so we just want to dye it. So I have the Quikrete cement color here in charcoal and a small cup for mixing. It's clean now. So I'm just gonna stir this up a little bit first. And we want to dump a little bit into this cup here. That should be good. Put the lid back on, because it's not like I'm known for spilling stuff on projects. So we have our Dry Lock. I just want to dye it up to a black color to at least blend in a little bit better. It's not going to be 100%. It won't be as noticeable. Give it a good shake. You want to put a good chunk of it in there. There's not really much left of this. As for a ratio, I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but just keep mixing until it turns black, and this will turn black pretty quick. And there we are. And it's still got some. There we are. And don't worry if you get it on your hands, it is washable. So all we're gonna do, I just got this paintbrush here. You can use whatever. Let's just dab this paintbrush in, get a good chunk of it on there, and then just do some touch-ups. It's not going to be a perfect match, but it'll work out pretty well. It won't be as noticeable once plants start growing. So I'm going to work on painting the rest of this. Now that we've gotten that paint painted up, we're gonna wanna wait and let it dry. It'll be about 24 hours before it dries. But in the meantime, while that's drying, I can go ahead and put some soil on some of these planters. It doesn't really bother me if some soil gets on the paint, as the natural overall look of it won't be ruined. And if there is an issue later on where some of that urethane comes back through, I can always go back over it and touch it up again with some dry lock. We're going to start with these smaller beds and fill these up first, and then go from there. First two beds are done. Phew! It was heavy, but it didn't really do much. Well, I've got a lot to go, so I'm gonna whip up some more soilless mix, and we're back. All right, Terror Tribe, I have the beds filled. I went with a typical area mix, added some perlite, and then I topped off with a more natural forest floor mix for the top 2 inches. I went with this just due to the fact that even though I know, and we all know they're planters, I just wanted to try to make it look as natural as possible. Before I topped it off with this natural forest floor looking potting mix, I went through and I put in my vermiculture bin. If any of you do not know what a vermiculture bin is worm composting. We raise worms to help create worm castings. Now my next step is to work on this 90-gallon. I know it holds water as I used it to grow water lilies over the summer. I just need to clean it out because it has a lot of cuttings in it right now. Some begonia cuttings, some different microgramma species, and my overall goal for this tank is to turn it into a I'm hoping later on as the tank cycles and ages that the water flowing down through the wall will help to benefit the plants. There will also be live plants within the aquarium. A lot of those excess nutrients that the fish are going to produce will be absorbed by the plants on the wall here. I'm also going to be setting up a canister filter which will act as the pump for the main setup system for the living wall. It'll help to filter a lot of the excess nutrients off from within the tank, help keep the water clean for both the plants and the fish. I hope you've enjoyed watching the build progress of this living wall. I've really enjoyed working on it. I can't wait to actually get the wall set up going. If you like the content you're seeing, drop us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon. This channel is relatively young, but we hope that as we go into the future, we'll be able to provide you with more content such as the builds and also some informational content. We hope everyone has a great holiday and happy growing.